Hello, we're back again. Chapter 8 in Svenska Utifrån. And Chapter 8, now we're going to take a look at something that is actually has some grammatical structure to it. And it's talking here about en or et words. Nouns generally, this generally applies to nouns to be en or et words, and there are some exceptions, and we'll talk about those, but in general we're talking about nouns here. And in the English equivalent of this is the word a or an. So if we say an egg, we use the word an, and if we say a piece of bacon, then we say a. And similarly, in Swedish, we'll say we'll use the word en or we'll use the word et in place of a or an. Now, just because there's a and an and there's en and et doesn't mean that every time you see an a would say an a that you say an en, and or vice versa. That doesn't apply. It can be an a word could be an et word in Swedish, or an an word could be an n word or an et word. So don't make that kind of association. But it is talking about either the word a or the word an. So that's what we're talking about here. Now there's no fixed rule to say which nouns are n words and which nouns are et words. It's just something that you have to learn, and as long as you're learning new words, which is probably the rest of your life, you're going to be learning, is this an n word, is this an et word? And there isn't the rule of saying one way or the other, and so it's just something that you need to as you hear it used, and as you misuse it, then you'll find out that, okay, actually that was an et word and I used n there, but okay, no problem. Somebody will understand what you're saying, but it's just the correct way to say it. And so it's not the end of the world. Some people get rather frustrated by it, but they still will understand you. That's the main thing of learning a language, is communication. So that's the okay. So this en and et word, it shows itself in three different ways, and we're mainly going to just cover one of them here. And so, as we said, it's in place of the word a or the word an. And so I'll just mention the other two, and that is that it's in the place, it comes when we would generally say the word the, and we'll mention something about that here, but mostly cover it later. And the third way is sometimes this en and et word phenomenon changes the adjective. So that's the describing word about the noun. So a hard chair, or a tall building, or a wide stream. So those tall and hard and wide, those are all adjectives. Sometimes those change because of it being an en or an et word. But again, we won't cover that one at all in our discussion. Okay, so in the place of a or an, we simply put the en or et in front, as a separate word, in front of the noun. So, for example, en bok would be a book, et papper is a piece of paper, et board is a table, and en stool is a chair. So n is spelled en, and et is spelled ett. So it's just meaning a book, a paper, a table, and a chair. In these cases, wouldn't use the word an in any of those cases, but it still would apply. there as well. So this is when we use the word a or an in English, we're talking generally about a book. We don't know which book we're talking about, but we're talking about a book. And we're talking about an egg. We don't know which egg we're talking about. So that's what a and an are. And the same with an and et. We're just saying an egg. So we don't know which particular one. If we want to say, in English, if we want to say a particular one, so then we're talking about the egg, or the table, or the book. Then we take this an and et, and actually it becomes an extension to the word. So we actually change the noun by adding this an or et at the end of the word. So a book is en book, and the book, now we're going to put the n on the end of the word, so it becomes boken. And papperet, the paper, bordet is the table, and stolen is the chair. So, but again, where this chapter is not specifically covering that form of the an and et case, but I mention it here partly because you'll see it, and for example, in this, even in the text of this chapter, you'll see there's a word for the room, and it's rummet, and there you'll see the et is on the end, and it means the room, and you'll notice this in other words, and it's just for when you're trying to read anything else. If you see the et on the end of a word, it means the noun, whatever it is. One other note about this is when we use it in the place of a or an, the et is spelled with two t's, E-T-T, and when we use it on the end of a word, then it's just E-T. It's only a single T. So if you see the difference there, just note that that's generally how it's done. Okay. So let's see my other notes here. So there's a couple exceptions of when you do not use an or et, and one easy case is proper nouns. In English, we wouldn't say a Sweden, we wouldn't say a Finland, we wouldn't say an Abraham Lincoln. We wouldn't say those kinds of, we wouldn't use that in front of, we wouldn't use a or an in front of those proper nouns generally. And the same in Swedish, we don't use en or et in front of a proper noun. The other exception here is that for an occupation, in English we would say I am a teacher, I am a photographer, and in Swedish we just leave the a, or in this case en or et, away. We just don't say it. We just say I am teacher, I am photographer, or he is photographer. So, okay, that's the idea here. There's a fair number of new words in this chapter. They are mostly nouns, because that's what an and et have to do with. You'll see an and et as long as you're studying Swedish, and and it's a very good thing just to be aware of. It's actually a quite useful thing to be able to say, okay, actually it's when you see it on the end of a noun, that okay, actually that's what this is talking about. It's very easy to take that away and then get actually the noun out of the word. And so pay attention to this. It's if you don't use it properly, it's not the end of the world, but it's a very good thing to know about. So I hope this made sense, helps. And until next time, happy studying.